Hi YouTube, this is Brad, otherwise known as Pug Weasel, and I'm doing a video today basically making a response to all preppers. So I'm going to get right into it because I'm going to limit myself hopefully to about 10 minutes. And so let's get into it. I wrote notes so I could be succinct. Basically, I've been watching prepper videos for the last few months, and just out of pure entertainment, to tell you the truth, it started to make me think. This video is not, I hope, it shouldn't be insulting to any preppers. It's not so much, it's not one of those where, you guys are a bunch of idiots or you're crazy or you don't know what's going to happen and you're going to get your butts kicked and people are going to just take your stuff. That is not actually the way I'm going with this, although it is a critique of the idea of preppers, and I hope I come from a different perspective. So, for those of you who are preppers, who are preparing for a natural disaster, who are looking to take care of themselves for, say, a few days to even, sometime longer, months maybe, keep going. There's nothing wrong with that. All of us should have a bug-out bag of some sort or a bug-in bag for that natural disaster. And so, I don't really have anything to criticize about that. It's a good idea, and I think even the federal government says it's a good idea. But most of the preppers that I see in videos these days seem to be waiting for the end of the world, the end of civilization, I should say, because it's not, obviously if the world ended, you wouldn't be here to need all that prepping, but end of civilization type situation. Many of them are collecting guns to kill criminals or to stop the threat of criminals, but also to stop people who are desperate because they didn't prep. Sometimes called, these people are sometimes called goblins, and for the purpose of, I don't know, they just consider that's the good word because they're going to come to your house and beg you for food because they're starving and you're not going to give them any, and then when they try to force themselves, you're going to end up shooting them. I guess that's the idea. Many are saving food and water, and some of you have saved food and water literally so you could live for years, you and your family. And that's actually kind of impressive, I have to admit. I'm not a prepper, and if I were a prepper, I think I wouldn't be all that organized, so I'd definitely be looking at your videos and try to figure out what to do next, and I admit that. Some of you have thought to recruit others so that you have a network of people, and I think that's good. That sounds like a smart idea to me, and but let's get to my criticisms here. First, you've ignored human nature. Humans are social creatures. We follow leaders. We like people to follow a set process that is created from within. If you think about the Survivor show, one of the things I noticed on the Survivor show is that on the first day they all get sent to whatever place they've got to survive at. The group will look around and see the hardest working guy there and kind of say, okay, he's an outlier, we're going to get rid of him because we don't like him. And it just seems to be our nature to kind of look at that person and say, you're going to try to take over, you're going to try to be better than the rest of us, and we're getting rid of you. Okay? If you think about that guy at your job, for instance, who doesn't have any seniority, and somehow he just impresses the boss and gets promoted before many other people who you think deserve it more, you tend to not like that guy. We don't tend to like that guy. The lazy son of the owner who gets put in charge because he's the owner's son, and then you're asked to train him so he can be your boss, even though you know everything there is to know so you can train him. You don't like that guy. Again, outliers we don't tend to like. It's in our nature. The point is that people are going to join together, and they're going to create a hierarchy, and it'll form, and then you'll be deemed an outcast, even though you have supplies, and people will say, oh well, they have everything they need, they were smart. You're still going to be deemed an outlier, and then you're going to be deemed an enemy to the groups that form. The group will sympathize with goblins. They will sympathize with those people who, out of desperation, approach you, your house, your belongings, and beg for help. And when you put them down, when all they wanted was to live, you are not going to be considered no one's going to be understanding about it. They're not going to consider you a hero. You're going to become the enemy to the group. Okay? In an end of the world situation, there are going to be people who lose their lives trying to help others, trying to save others. And the groups that form will consider you to be the antithesis of this. In other words, the exact opposite of the heroes that are going to be considered to be people who will go down in history past that time. And they'll talk about you in the context of those heroes. And that's not going to be good for you as people who are kind of out there on your own, even if you've created some small group. Small councils will develop in order to govern and speak for these small groups that are going to form, and small groups of survivors. And just to give you examples of the kind of groups that are probably going to end up being formed, some will be constitutional based. They'll try to keep the Constitution in mind as they govern themselves and find a way to have rules for their leaders and the people in the group. You're going to have the might makes right based groups. These groups are going to take whatever they need from anyone else based on the idea that there are more of them than there are of you, and that they can overrun people. They won't just attack preppers. They're going to attack these other groups as well. So it's not, but you're going to be prime targets because you have the supplies and the medical things and so on and so forth. Food, medical supplies, shelter. And they will be ruthless. They will find ways to justify their existence and be completely ruthless with whoever they deal with, not just preppers. There are going to be quirky groups that start up that are going to have weird rules. They're going to be commune type things, but they may be fringe groups that also are maybe violent to themselves even, and they're going to be out there. I don't know how they'll affect preppers, but they'll be out there. They'll have weird superstitions, and there will be religious-based groups that will end up being big. I'm guessing that religious-based groups, non-preppers, will go to God, and they will be very attractive to people who have nothing and know where to go, because I think that's kind of what we see in our society right now. Okay, so unless you join or share with one of these groups, you will perish most likely, and very likely violently, but not necessarily violently. You may just age out because you're not a part of a group. You will definitely not be invited to procreate with these groups because, again, they will not consider you to be people deserving of connection with them. There are going to be people left. There will be people left, or if there are people left, I should say, technology will be rebuilt relatively quickly. People will start making weapons that may not be as sophisticated as the weapons you have that are left over from civilization, but will essentially be able to be used to try to get what you have. And so it's something you have to take in consideration, and I know you have with your weapons, but don't think you're going up against people with machetes and knives. You're going to be going up against people who have catapults or whatever they can build. Okay? The point of all this is that one family fortress, no matter how well you prepare, is not going to help you to exist in the very long run. There won't be generations of you if you're preppers and you're outliers. And that's something that you're going to have to take in consideration. So what's the solution? And I've got like a minute left on my timer, and I really want to keep this down around 10 minutes, so I'm going to try to go fast now. Solutions: prepare to be leaders in these groups, which means you might have to prep just a little bit differently. Prepare to contribute in some way besides food. I'm not telling you not to collect food. That's a wonderful idea, but prepare to do other things that can be helpful to the group so that you can fit into that group. It would be better to invest in, say, solar panels and keep them someplace in the box where they might not get destroyed in case something happens to your house. Guns for security, but to offer up security for that group so that when those might make right type people show up to try to take from them, you are contributing to that group. Medical training and supplies is going to be a great help to groups. Carpentry skills, and this is where you might want to try and have some skills that are outside the box. For instance, if you studied up on how, for instance, Africans build huts. I was in Kenya a few years ago, and you can make mud huts, you can make huts out of dung mixed with straw. Some medieval stuff, would probably be very helpful, especially if we end up in some kind of weather type of disaster where plants aren't growing, trees have been burned down from in some way, shape, or form, and we don't have enough to build things with wood. Okay, teaching skills so that our young, our children, can remain intelligent creatures, and we're not reverting back to caveman days, if you will, or even to the old West type of days, but so that we remain the most intelligent creature on the planet would be very good. Hydroponics, which I don't know a great deal about, except that you can grow things with fluorescent lights, and that you can grow things with using alternative materials instead of soil. And that may be very, very important to our future if, in fact, somehow whatever happens, say it's a meteor or it's a bomb, that the soil is spoiled in some way, shape, or form, or we have pollution to the point from, if you have a meteor land, you're going to have essentially a sky that's not letting the sunlight through, or we have real pollution that keeps the sunlight from coming through or causes it to burn everything up, like in this drought we're having right now. So hydroponics would be a good skill, and hunting skills. If somehow we don't have that kind of disaster that kills all the animals, but we don't have farms that are together anymore, and domestic livestock is no longer available to us, hunting may be a very good skill, and it would probably be, if our livestock's gone, we're probably also going to lose our larger game like deer, and we would probably be looking for things that lived in the ground like rabbits, prairie dogs, so on and so forth. And if you know how to trap those things, because obviously ammunition will be limited, you would be very helpful to a small group of people who are putting their society back together. So I hope this was helpful. I hope that you understand that it's not out of disrespect that I'm making this message, but that I'm trying to basically put my take on how things would happen after a WROL situation or a SHTF situation. My name's Brad Pugweasel. Have a good night.